these executions are blatant violations of international recognized rules. There was no free trial. There was brutal torture and forced confessions. Two more protesters were sentenced to death and were taken to solitary confinement yesterday and were supposed to be hanged yesterday morning, but due to an enormous pressure of the population that rushed to Gohardast prison in the city of Karaj. Up to now, according to my latest informations, I hope they stand true, they were not executed. In reaction to these executions, the European Union, Germany, France, Norway, the Netherlands, Denmark, Belgium, the United Kingdom, and the United States issued condemnations. The issue is, are these condemnations sufficient? Should not the European Union proceed with the full blacklisting of, as a terrorist organization, of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards? Shouldn't we start immediately to put out of the European soil those who pretend to be ambassadors, but we know are affiliated with the secret services and very often are committing terrorist activities in Europe, as we saw with Assadi?
If we have a regime that is capable of killing its own people, its young people, and as Annalena Baerbock said, if it's a regime that has the craziness to kill its youth, imagine what they're able to do with people that are not from their own country. Then we should shut the Iranian representation diplomatic here in our countries, because these are terrorist antennas working in our countries. They have to be shut. Moreover, when we know and we see, and look, the whole world is seeing what they're doing in Iran. But third, and that's for me the most important thing, when we see what's going on in Iran, we hear people saying, well, yeah, they have to win this revolution, but who would be the leader? They don't have a leader. There's no one to take, to build the democracy after these guys are toppled. Well, we know that there is an option, and it's here. The option is the Iranian resistance. And the symbolic, very beautiful part of it, if it's a woman leading this resistance. And it should be a woman in this moment of history to be the one making the transition from a misogynistic regime to a democratic regime. We want this revolution to succeed. We want to see women free in Iran. And we want to be part of the solution. We want to help. We want the women in Iran to know that here in the rest of the world, we are mobilized to help them. And we are calling our governments to give an official backup to Miriam Rajavi, which is the president-elect of the Iranian resistance. And she has the mandate from all of us to unite the forces of resistance. There are many, probably, but there's only one organization. There's only one organization that can take over the regime, and this is the National Resistance of Iran.
We listened very, very often in the parliament this this argument. Oh yes, you want to topple down this religious dictatorship, But what will come after? What will come after? So there will be chaos afterwards. Well, this is not so, because the alternative should guarantee a true democracy. It's not a question to replace one dictatorship for another dictatorship. That would be nonsense. The alternative must must ensure that the regime change will be from dictatorship to democracy. So this is essential. No Shah, no supreme leader, a democracy. And my conclusion can only be one. After 22 years collaborating with the National Council of Resistance of Iran and the People's Mujahedin of Iran and knowing them so well, the conclusion can be only one. With all respect for all organizations and all movements, but if there is one organization that has the structure, the motivation, the plan, the leadership, and the wide support inside and outside, and can lead the transition from the present dictatorship to a true democracy, this is the National Council of Resistance of Iran and the People's Mujahedin of Iran, led by Mariam Rajavi.
Well, we know the revolution, and let's call it by that name, the revolution has now gone on for 4 months. And that shows the deep-rooted nature of the insurrection. It shows how the people, and mostly young people, led by women, as Ingrid said from the outset, how they have now become a recognized existential threat to the future of this tyrannical dictatorship. The mullahs recognize that. They are doing everything in their power with their cruel and vicious crackdown on the protests, as we've heard from Paolo of the executions that have taken place. There have been 4 executions of protesters, but in the past year there have been 500 executions, some of them in public. People strangled from cranes in a public square. This is the regime that we're dealing with. Our message today is that there must be no impunity for the perpetrators of these atrocities. Those responsible for this brutal ongoing crackdown on the protests, which has led to the injury and death of thousands of men, women and children, and for the arrest, torture and execution of innocent protesters, they must be held to account for these crimes. The ISJ, we call on the United Nations, the United States, the EU and all democratic countries to take practical steps to stop these executions and killings in Iran. Silence is no longer acceptable. And if we remain silent, it will certainly lead to more executions. But words alone are no longer sufficient. We need hard action. And as you've heard from all the speakers today, the hard action now is withdraw our ambassadors from Tehran, close our embassies, and then expel all of their diplomatic staff, all of their cohorts, all of their pro-regime agents, get them out of our territory, out of Europe. And then we can start looking towards restoring democracy, justice, women's rights, human rights, which is what 80 million Iranians are now fighting on the streets, campaigning for, and willing to lose their lives for on a day-by-day basis. Thank you.